Assalamualaikum and good evening everyone, and to our beloved Madam Hana. So today we are going to present about activity 8 about legal issue presentation by our group Phylantus. So next. So these are our group members. Okay. The first issue we are going to relate with the law of tort under the negligence. So the first issue is about drunk driver crash into motorbike and kill father of wife. So this is the fact about the incident. Uh, Mr. Mr. Khairizul and his wife were riding a motorbike was rear-ended by a man after finishing their dinner at Miss Zuriana's two younger sisters. The accident was happened at kilometer 140.2 of the North-South Expressway, northbound at the exit of Bright on 5th a.m. of 9 February 2020. So Mr. Khairizul was found died immediately at the incident, and his wife suffered critical injuries as a result of the accident. So the man failed a breathalyzer test which revealed that he was drunk at the time of the accident happened. So therefore, we suggest that this case was fall under the tort of negligence.
So the next part is the recommendation from us. So the issue is whether the drunk drivers owes a duty of care to the victims. This case is referred under law of tort of negligence. The definition of negligence is a person's careless action or inaction that cause other to suffer damage that may give rise to tort of negligence. And then negligence was established when three elements are fulfilled, which are there is duty of care on part of the victims, the duty is breached by the tortfeasor, and the breach result in some damages. So to prove the tort of negligence in the court, the plaintiff is required to demonstrate the fact that the tortfeasor was fulfilling the three elements of negligence. Then the court could give the judgment in the side of the claimant. So duty in the tort of negligence means duty as imposed by the law or legal duty. From this case, the drunk driver has duty to follow the rules, which a drunk driver is prohibited to drive a car when under influence of alcohol. The driver fails to follow the rules. Thus, the breathalyzer test has proved that the driver breaches the duty of care. And next is breach of duty. In negligence, liability may be found to exist where the tortfeasor fails to meet the standard of care required by the law. So from this case, the drunk driver fails to meet his obligation to the victims where he should not drive a car under influence of alcohol. Therefore, he breached as a licensed driver to drive carefully and to follow all the rules that will cause a horrible accident. Lastly, damage in negligence means the act of the tortfeasor that caused harm to the victims. It is clearly proof that the driver has caused damage to the victim where Mr. Kaisirul died immediately at the accident scenes and his wife was suffered critical injuries. Hence, the damage was caused by the breach of duty of the tortfeasor. Therefore, the court will rule in the favor of the plaintiff and then the plaintiff will win the case. So next.
So next, we continue with the second issue about the campus violence in China. So in this issue, it is actually about a campus violence when there is a middle school student named Lu, uh, which is 17 years old at the time of the crime, and same school student named Shi. They had a argument on WeChat app, and the two sides then about a fight. Okay, so Lu convinced the defendant, which is Wang, 17 years old when the crime happened. Wu, 16 years old on the time when the crime happened. Talk about a certain issue when the crime happened. The incident took place on May 30, 2020, at the gate of a high school in the Changsha city, and the victim, she was slightly injured. The Jintan District People's Court believed that the defendants Lu, Wang, and Wu talk about forming a gang to fight with people with weapons. So the defendants' behaviors are all constitute to a mob fight and belong to a joint crime. So the judgment, the court sentenced Lu and others to fixed term imprisonment ranging from 1 year to 1 year and 4 months for affray.
The next is the recommendation of the case. So the issue here is whether the defendant owes a duty of care to the victim. Yes, this case is a classical case of gang fighting among minors in school. In the course of the investigation and collection of evidence in this case, the court found that most of the abusers' family and school education had varying degrees of extent. Therefore, Jintan Court can among its jurisdiction and primarily more judicial. The management university should strengthen the role of law students in education that makes effective to resolve the disputes between students and to avoid conflict outbreaks, thereby reducing the occurrence of school violence cases. So back to our relevant laws of Malaysia. Compared with the tort law in Malaysia, we also think that this kind of this kind are illegal. Liability in tort arises when a person does something that is not allowed or doesn't do something that is required by the law. Tortious liability arises from the branch of duty that has been sanctioned by the law. This duty is owed towards the public generally. The breach may be redressed and liquidated damages. Torts such as negligence, nuisance, strict liability, and defamation require proof of damage or harm before the defendant is held liable. Damage includes physical injuries, damage to property, damage to reputation, or economic loss. According to the law, the victim has the right to claim compensation case. This matter constitutes a violation in tort of law. However, it is worth noting that both parties are minors and are students at school. It do not have full capacity for civil conduct, so the education of the school and the parents is also worth discussing. Vicarious liability doesn't exist in this case. Both parties are minors, whether the parents and the school are responsible for their ineffective guardianship. However, due to the complexity of time and place, the complete substitution behavior is not easy to confirm. But what we cannot deny is that in daily education, parents, school, and social groups should pay more attention to school violence incidents.
So that's all from us. Thank you.